Hello, everyone, and welcome to Spinning Back Clique, where each week we take a spin through the hottest topics in MMA. And no, it is not opposite day. That is in January, but I'm your host, Nolan King, doing a little switcheroony with Gorgeous George, who is on the panel today in Las Vegas, and joining us as well, his brother, Goz Garcia. I don't know if I just revealed for the first time on here that you guys are related. And then I also have Danny Segura, who is on the best coast that exists here on the East Coast in Miami. Guys, we have a massive card to talk about from last weekend, UFC 322, one of the biggest shows of the entire year so far. Probably at the end of the year will be maybe the show that we think about when we think about 2025. A lot to break down in the welterweight division, women's flyweight, and then we have to look forward to UFC Qatar as well. So let's just jump right into it, George. I hope you're not rusty and you got to dust off your panelist shoes here, but I'll start with you. What was your overall reaction to the main event where we saw Islam Makhachev just straight up dominate Jack Della Maddalena for 5 rounds? How impressed were you in his performance, and were you surprised at all from what you saw to either man?
I was very impressed. I tipped my hat to the Russian. He did everything he needed to do. He's now part of an exclusive club, a champ, right? And I know you have to give up the belt nowadays to come up, but meaning he still has 1-2 belts in 2 different weight classes. But man, I was bored. I don't know, because he matched Anderson Silva in the record for 16 straight wins. He's obviously now starting to possibly distance himself from Khabib Nurmagomedov, as maybe the greatest Dagestani fighter ever. Maybe even the greatest Russian fighter ever. So he's reaching all these great heights, right? But along the way, it was just set up so nicely for him to finish. He was totally dominating JDM. JDM had no answers to him, but yet, I don't know. It was just, it was like you're at a restaurant and you're trained in martial arts and someone's acting a fool. And guess what? You hold them down until the cops get there. That's what it looked like. You have no handcuffs or anything, so I'm just going to hold them down, and then the cops get there, and then that's it. No, man, I want to see ground and pound. I want to see a finish, and it's not like he didn't try. He did. He didn't try enough.
Yeah. How much of that do you think was on Jack Goz? I mean, from what you saw to him, I guess what was your reaction to his first performance? Obviously, he got dominated, but was there much that you could take away from his game out of that one?
Listen, I think the situation, I'm going to have to go against George here, his first day back as a panelist, and we're already going to be beefing. I am one of those guys. I'm with him. I want to see an exciting fight. But at the end of the day, taking chances, I get it. But I feel like the chance was already taken in going up in weight. It's not 10 pounds. It's 15 pounds. He's going for 2 belts. For the most part, the guy gives us finishes. He dominates fights. This was just one that didn't really, it wasn't fun. I get what George is saying, but he already took his risk. His risk was going up. And I think he proved that he's a special fighter because Jack Della Maddalena, people are going to say maybe he didn't deserve to be a champion. Maybe it was just a fluke. I disagree. I think he's a good fighter. He's just got a hole that was exposed even more in wrestling, that Islam Makhachev completely dominated him in that area. And that's very unfortunate. If you look at it, if a casual fan came on here and saw that fight, they'd probably go, did this guy even work that? Of course he did. But the problem is this, these Dagestani fighters are on a different level, you guys. Wrestling is not part of their camp. It's their lifestyle. It's all they do. If you want to compete with these guys, forget training with the best wrestler in your camp. Forget bringing a good wrestler into your camp. You have to immerse yourself in this if you want to be able to compete with a guy like Islam Makhachev, who had just absolutely dominated him in the wrestling department. I get it. At the end of round 4, maybe you go, hey, round 5, take some chances out there. Throw some elbows, do whatever. But if I put myself in his shoes and his corner shoes, I'd probably say, you know what, man? I just want to see you with 2 belts. Let's just get the hell out of here. We've put on entertaining fights before. We'll do something in the next one. But this guy's got to manage the new weight that he put on. He's got a lot on his mind. He's got a big accomplishment. I will give him the mulligan here.
Because he went like 4 rounds of domination. It even looked like the other guy was hurt. Look how great it was when BJ Penn submitted Matt Hughes, right? He went up. Look at a few, a year ago or whenever, months ago, Ilia Topuria went up, smashed his way to the title. That's when you like leave the house because you're like, whoa, you're going nuts, right? And then your neighbor looks at you and goes, did you see that? Everyone's talking about it. Man, I heard people, I had some friends that said that they invited other friends and they were ordering an Uber in round 2. I don't know.
I agree with you. I agree with you to a certain point, George. But listen, on the same card, Leon Edwards, what happened in round 5 of his fight, right? Like shit happens, and you're taking a big chance against a bigger dude. I don't know. I'm with you. I want to see more, but I'm gonna give him the pass here just because of how important this was in the landscape of 2 years from now. I really do feel like we're going to go back and we're going to look at this night and say, wow, that was a big moment for this guy. And it could have been messed up had he taken a bigger risk. I get it, man.
My second last name is Garcia, so I want to get on this Garcia violence. Look, I think I got to side with my brother here to the left. GG goes, you're wrong on this one. There were so many positions where Islam could have done damage. I understand if maybe, I don't know, Jack is neutralizing him in certain areas and he just isn't in a position to cause damage, isn't in a position to get close to finishing the fight. But that wasn't the case, man. The guy was in very dominant positions where he could have easily rained down some elbows, some punches, and he chose not to. He chose to maybe work the submission, try to set something up, or just hold on to the position. Again, and go look at my timeline. Nothing but love to Islam Makhachev. What he did was amazing. But I got to agree with GG. He could have done way more, and it felt that way. I felt the same way watching Khamzat Chimaev dominate Dricus du Plessis. And yeah, I don't know. There's just something about almost as if they don't want to cause bodily harm. It's almost like a Damian Maia-esque performance where he just goes in there to submit you and not to hurt you. That's kind of what it felt like, man.
If next week you hear him piping off saying, how come I don't make more money? How come I don't sell shirts or whatever? Then I would point to that and I'd say, guys, you just don't do much. No, you kind of deserve that. But I don't think he gives a shit. I think he just wants to win. That's all that matters to him. I don't think he cares about entertaining.
And Goes, I'll swing it to you going off that. In terms of pound for pound, I think many people agree that he's number one right now, right? He just went up and George says no. George, who's number one for you?
Topuria still.
Okay.
Topuria's never lost.
Make your case.
Topuria was grand in his biggest fights. Holloway, Volkanovski, Oliveira got the finish, no doubt. Statement wins. So, like I say, we're splitting hairs here. I don't want anyone in the chat to interpret it as a hate or anything. No, these are great fighters, but we're splitting hairs here. One guy's lost once. Now, where Makhachev does have him is more title defenses, respect. But remember, two of them were against a featherweight. One was against a Moicano who wasn't supposed to fight him as well. Even Poirier had gotten knocked out in this fight before he happened to be he had beaten BSD. But before that, he gotten iced by Justin Gaethje, and then he found himself in the right place at the right time. He fought, by the way, better against Islam Makhachev than JDM. So we're splitting hairs here, but I still hang on to Topuria. It doesn't mean I won't get overruled when I present the rankings tomorrow, because a few people do chime in, but still, those are my feelings.
Goes or Danny, are you guys on the Topuria train or the Makhachev wagon?
So this is an interesting thing. I was like, go check out my Twitter timeline. I think that's a good proof for me to kind of defend myself from people accusing me to be an Islam hater. I was over the moon about like what he was able to achieve that night, and I do think he's and I do think he's on his way to become an all-time great and join sort of the people outside of that top two, GSP and John Jones, so join the Demetrius Johnson, Anderson Silva, etc. But I was like, Islam Makhachev is pound for pound the best. And then yesterday, me and GG talked about the rundown and kind of putting together the show. And he said the exact same thing that he just told you guys, and kind of planted the seed. And I'm, right now, I think it's a debate. I do think that Ilia Topuria has been way more dominant. I do think finishes and being just nasty has something to do with it, right? Just running through opposition. And, if you look at some of Islam's title defenses, yeah, they're package ass title fights, but like the Moicano fight, is that really, a championship level fight, I would say no.
Even Volkanovski too. I'll give him Volkanovski one.
Short notice,
right?
smaller guy.
Yeah,
you're right.
But Volkanovski too is 10 days notice. So yeah, but he's still 4, whereas Habib is 3. You know, and the others, BJ Penn, Frankie Edgar, Benson Henderson, they had 3. So he distinguished himself there. But still, you know, like again, when you talk about the greats, you got to split hairs, you got to nitpick. You know, and that's why I still think it's Topuria. I could get overruled, and if someone had the other one, I wouldn't call him crazy or go out there and throw eggs at that office. You know, Tapology, MMA Fighting, whoever. I don't care if they do it that way, fine. But I think my opinion is I still think Topuria is number 1.
Yeah, Islam being number 1 is not crazy at all. It's definitely a debate, but I think that George convinced me, and I'm gonna go with Ilia Topuria being number 1, just because. Man, I mean, just look at how he's doing things, and also the quality. You got to remember, there's a Max Holloway in there. He became the first person to knock out Max Holloway. That's huge, man. You know, Charles Oliveira in a way we've never seen before. The guy's good, man. The guy's really, really good. I think he's pound for pound best. But look, if you make the case for Makhachev, I won't call you crazy.
Yeah, these debates are always so difficult, right? It's a game of millimeters when it comes to the pound for pound debate, and it always sounds like you're saying something negative. But I think we all realize how good these guys are. Goes, you were awfully quiet during that debate. What do you think? Are you agreeing with these two?
Sorry, I was putting an ad for a new brother and stepbrother, Nolan, if you want to take that. Splitting hairs over there, I want to split skulls. Listen, at the end of the night on the pay-per-view and the watch-along, I was kind of with George Topuria. I was feeling that. I understood what he was saying. But I did tell him I'm going to reserve my judgment for MMA Junkie Radio. Last night I thought it over, and I was leaning more towards Islam. And tonight, today I'll give my final review. But listen, I do think it's razor thin, okay? If we look at their records, Topuria is undefeated. There's something to that, right? He's never lost. Islam's 28-1. However, here's where I think this is kind of what won me over a little bit. When you think about it, Islam's 17-1 in the UFC, and that's the highest level of MMA, right? That's 18 fights. We can tell a lot about a fighter in 18 fights. Topuria has 9 fights. I'm not saying you can't learn anything about a fighter in 9 fights. Obviously, he's a badass. But if he had the same record as Islam, would he still be undefeated? Would he have a loss? I think eventually somebody probably would get him. If we look at their quality opponents, take their 4 best guys, right? If you look at Topuria, you'd say maybe Oliveira, Holloway, Volk, hell, even Yusuf Zalal now. Like when you bring that up, right? Like what he's been doing. You look at that, okay. Those 3 of those were finishes. Zalal went the distance. Look at Makhachev, his 4 are probably Volkanovski, Oliveira, Poirier, and JDM. Yeah, you know, one of them was a featherweight, and I get that. At JDM, he didn't get the finish. If you look at who they've faced, 3 of those 4 belts for Topuria, they've held belts. All 4 for Makhachev have held belts, right? Then you look at what they did, getting a second belt and how they did it. One guy went up 10 pounds, the other guy went up 15 pounds. The guy that went up 10 pounds, he got a finish in his fight, right? The guy that went 15 didn't, but he did go up more. I think what really holds it for me for Islam Makhachev, and let me be clear, I'm a big Topuria fan, and I do think this guy's going to be way bigger than he is now. I think what it is at the highest level, the UFC, he's just got more experience, and there's more proof that he's been getting it done. I give the slight edge to him, but if Topuria in his next match gets a win, probably give it back to Topuria.
Yeah. Well, Goes, you put out your listing for a new brother. I think you found one in me because I agree with you as well. I think longevity is a big part of this, but I won't dive too much into it. I think you guys had a lot of good points. For Jack's side, though, I mean, we talk about what this means for Makhachev. Is he the you know, what's it do for his legacy, pound for pound talk? But for Jack, he hit championship level in his last fight. Everybody was talking about the Bilal fight, and now I feel like kind of the wind's been sucked out of his sails. I guess, what do you think, Goes, this does for his stock? And I guess, like, does he have like a big climb to get back there, right? As long as Islam's champion, nobody's going to want to see this fight again.
Yeah, no, it's I think he didn't move down the ladder. I think he fell down the ladder. He's going to have a lot to prove to a lot of people.
Yeah, no doubt. Danny, George, anything else you want to add about Jack?
He's still a fun fighter to have in the division. I'm just imagining right now Praches versus Jack. I think right now just kind of keep him away from the contenders, just do some fun fights, which obviously are still relevant to the title contention, and then see where he's at. I mean, he's still got that former champion label, so that does wonders as well. He is a fighter from an important region for the UFC because they obviously go there often. I don't want to say it's over. It's definitely a tough climb, but he's also not in a terrible position. I think there's some fun fights for him out there.
Nolan, notice nobody said, well, we got to give him some time off, man. That concussion, he took some lumps. He didn't take anything. He could probably fight next week, honestly. But I don't know. It was such an awesome win, such an awesome game plan. The execution against Bilal Muhammad. And by the way, he was terrible in his title defense, right? And then he comes up and it was like DDP, just no answers. The corner's telling him, we trained this, we trained that. He could not execute it. And he was even making it easy, standing upright too close, sometimes just throwing lazy kicks that Makhachev would catch. And then once he was on the ground, I don't know. Now, where I'm scared is I'm going to find out that he was 50%. He had an injury. Who knows? I could see him grimacing a lot. He toughed out, not getting smashed. But again, going back to what I said, man, I wasn't asking for much. There just has to be a point where you hear there's 10 seconds left. All right, so what if somehow he gets up, but posture up, start smashing. Yeah. Smashing, punches, elbows, anything, effort, and good stuff. Man, I'm a Lakers fan. You guys know that, right? There'd be times when Magic Johnson at the end of the game would get a steal, and I'd be like, slam that shit to end the game! Exclamation point. He'd go up there and he'd lay it up. He's 6'8". Come on, that's what I'm saying. Go up there and dunk it.
Hey, look, he doesn't need time off because of damage, but I do actually think he needs time out to figure things out.
To wrestle.
And some of it has to do with the coaching. They were telling him what to do, but they weren't telling him how to do it. You don't think he wants to do that? Of course he does, but they weren't telling him, and this is how it gets done. That look on his face, he was absolutely broken, man.
Yeah.
He really was. He needs to figure that out. I mean, George mentioned Magic Johnson. Like, in every sport, momentum is a big thing, and I think that kid got crushed, like, spiritually. He needs to figure things out.
Yeah, I think it's...
One more observation, and I said this to Gigi just because I think it's worth mentioning. In all respect to Bilal, but I couldn't help but think watching that fight that Bilal must feel like an idiot just because, like, I think he could do exactly the same thing that Islam Makhachev did that night at UFC 322, but instead he chose to box him. And he could have been champion. He still could have been champion, maybe with another title defense, but yeah.
Well, the good thing for the UFC is that they have no shortage of contenders at welterweight, and we felt that going into Saturday, and we certainly felt that coming out. Two massive knockouts. If you're looking for excitement, look no further than Michael Morales and Carlos Prache. But let's talk about Morales first, going out there, just essentially dismantling Sean Brady in a matter of minutes. What do you think his ceiling is? Do you think we're looking at a champ here? Me personally, I feel like we look at this guy, he's still so green, right? Like there's still so much improvement. But Danny, I liked your comparison to Rumble Johnson, so I'll swing it to you first. He looked really tremendous. Do you think that we have a future champion here?
I do. And I want the chat to switch the hashtag Danny B Trip into Danny B Right, because I called this underdog pick. Dude, Morales is so good. From everyone I talked to, like, this guy hasn't even scratched the surface. Like, this guy really is a grappler. It really is a wrestler, a jiu-jitsu guy. But Raul Arbizu purposely has been like, nope, you are not wrestling. You're not using your biggest weapon. We're getting your hands ready. He's trained with the coach that trained in the early days, JCC, Julio Cesar Chavez, over there in Tijuana. I mean, this guy's got sharp hands. He's huge. He's got power. He's got confidence. He's got an aura to him. I don't want to compare him exactly to McGregor, but when you go in there, sort of time slows down and there's a different energy. There's a different vibe once you're in the octagon. And he made Sean Brady feel that. Sean Brady, who's seen it all, you can tell he was a little bit shook by that power, even though at that point strikes hadn't landed clean, but there was sort of already that respect. Look, 26 years old, he could lose his next fight, who knows? But at 26, looking the way that you're looking, also huge thing to note, stepped out there in a packed arena before 2 championship fights in Madison Square Garden and had no jitters, had no, fear of the lights. He actually performed even better. And keep in mind, this guy's last fight was at the UFC Apex. That's also huge. How do you manage the big moments? He definitely didn't choke, and he's definitely built for stardom and built for this. So I'm calling it right now. Save this clip. Hashtag Danny B. Wright. Michael Morales, future UFC champion. Might not be in his next fight, but at some point with 26 years old and looking this good, this guy will have a UFC belt tied around his waist.
Yeah, just an absolutely tremendous presence. And that came on the heels of another massive knockout, which was Carlos Prates just totally flooring Leon Edwards, turning the lights off. Leon was looking at the ceiling. Just a tremendous knockout for Carlos there. George, for you, which knockout did you like better? I guess, what do you think what did you think of that performance from Prates? And I guess, where do you kind of think he fits into this welterweight picture?
I would say I like Prates' punch better than Morales. Morales is a little wild, but I agree with Danny. He'll be a future champion. It looks that way. But Prates, he actually lost round 1, in my opinion. And then he just stayed confident. And then all of a sudden he found his opening, and it was just a straight punch right at his mouth. Didn't even come in like from an angle or anything to put him down. And then the follow-up, he just beat the ref to it. But I preferred Prates' knockout over Morales just by a bit. His potential, when he gets taken down, I still have some concerns. So if he's fighting a striker in a world title fight, he's as game as anyone. But if he goes up against a grappler, there's going to be some struggles. So I still got to see how he responds to that before I can anoint him as a possible contender. Whereas with Morales, he comes from a wrestling background, judo background. So I think he'll be more competent if his time comes sooner.
Yeah, just an excellent problem for the UFC to have with Prates, with Michael Morales, I know Kamaru Usman's inserted his name in there. We have Ian Gary and Bilal Muhammad fighting this week. So welterweight is tremendous right now. If you were to put on Sean Shelby's shoes and be the matchmaker and determine who gets the next welterweight shot, who are you going with?
Man, I really got to see what this next matchup is going to produce. But honestly, I feel like Kamaru Usman is just very likable by the UFC, especially Sean Shelby and those guys. I feel like he might get the steal, but if something tremendous happens in this fight, I think it could be one of those guys. But Danny, you know what? I do agree with everything George and Danny said about Morales. I feel like I like the things that he's saying, especially wanting to take your time. I think that's kind of smart for a young fighter. Usually young fighters don't say things like that. But why not let all those names we just mentioned, let them beat each other up, and then you walk in and pick up the leftovers? Because for as impressive as he looked, he does need to kind of tweak a couple things. It reminds me of the young Francis Ngannou, where you go, man, this guy's got a lot of talent. The skill has to catch up a little bit. You got to tighten a couple screws, but he's going to get there. I mean, welterweight is a lot of fun, and it doesn't get talked about as much as some of the other divisions.
But I wonder if he's like a Joel Alvarez, where that making weight, he's only got a few of those left, and who knows if he becomes a middleweight. I'm sorry, but when I saw them sized up, it reminded me of Charlie Brenneman versus Anthony Johnson. Yeah. Remember, Brenneman finished as a 55er. Johnson finished as a 205er. I mean, the size difference was incredible, and he's jacked. So where's all the weight going to come off? How long can he do it? Maybe at age 30, that's it. I think he could maybe have a future at middleweight. I know Danny's close to the camera. Maybe he can chime in. But real quick, Danny, I just want to say, I think Junkie already addressed it. Sorry, kid was saying, hey, do you guys have any footage of the Dana stuff? It's all over Junkie. Go look at the site there, and maybe we'll touch on it later. And then also the guy in the red is Hayden Islam. No, man, I think I've been pretty clear. I think he's an amazing fighter. I just think he could have put a cherry on the sundae. Go ahead, Danny.
Morales, I think he is going to end up at 185. I think he knows that, but I do think he's got a few years left for him at 170. From what I hear, he doesn't have the cleanest diet, and he likes to eat a lot of sweets and stuff like that. And that's a bit of a thing in the camp, and something they battle with. So there is some room there, I don't think he's at sort of like Joel Alvarez, his last few fights, he was at the very end of making 155. And he told me, Joel Alvarez, that, he needed at least 10 weeks heads up before a fight in order for him to make 155. Like, it was that big of a process. 9-8 weeks wouldn't cut it. He wouldn't make weight. Morales took this fight on 4 weeks notice, and the weight was also a concern here. It was one of the last fights that were added to UFC 322. So I get your concerns. I do agree he's going to end up at 185 at some point, but I don't think that time is anytime soon.
Yeah, a lot of good discussion. Quickly, Danny and George, who would you give the next shot to? George,
you want to go ahead and take this one first?
I'm just going to exclude the White House and all that stuff. So I want the champ to possibly defend, like in March. But remember, we have Ramadan coming up. So I don't think they're going to get to him before then. Now we get to the summer. So perhaps we are going to get to the White House. In fact, he said the White House. I guess Kamaru Usman, with what he did against Buckley, is probably in a really good position because Shavkat Rakhmonov is not announced. I'm back. There was rumors of some setback. I think he went on Twitter and said, no, those aren't true or whatever. He's had next for the longest time, but he's just not back. Now, bear in mind, let's watch what Ian Gary and Bilal Muhammad do. If one of them does something pretty special, especially on the Gary side, you just kind of never know. Gary's really dusted himself off since the Rakhmonov fight, and he's been doing well. He always stirs the pot. Bilal versus Makhachev probably wouldn't happen, I think. I mean, I don't know what the latest is there. So Gary or Usman, I think, is probably next.
I have to agree. Prach is not going to get a shot. Morales, you could justify it, but I don't think that he is. Bilal, I think he's probably got to do more. And again, I don't know what that situation is because they didn't want to make that fight in the first place when Bilal was champion. If Ian Gary wins and wins impressively, I can see him getting the shot. It's going to be between him and Kamaru. I would say that Kamaru would probably be sort of the better pay-per-view, but under this new Paramount era that we're going to step in, is that, how much of a factor is that going to weigh in? Certainly a big fight. Also, if the UFC really wants to go to the well and sort of milk the whole Dagestani and Ireland rivalry, I think there's something there. Obviously, Ian Gary's not Conor, but I'm sure Conor will be possibly backing him, and I know they've had some friendly interactions in the past. They've trained together and all that. So, and then the whole Dylan Dennis thing, which was mentioned in the chat, even just kind of reignited that whole thing. So, I think it's going to come down between those two. And sadly to say, because before the UFC 322, I said that the fight to make, and it still kind of is, but I feel like it did lose a little bit of flavor. The fight to make was Islam Makhachev versus Ilia Topuria. But I feel like by how the fight went down and how big Islam looked, he's definitely not returning to 155, and putting Ilia in another title fight without him defending a belt.
Right.
Man, that looks unlikely. But I do hope that fight happens at some point in the future. But yeah, Gary or Usman.
Yeah, I'm going to go with, I think if Gary wins on Saturday, I'd give it to him. Michael Morales, I think, is a very interesting style matchup, but I guess maybe one more before that. Obviously, a lot to talk about. Let's move on. We could sit here and talk about welterweight all day, happily. But it wasn't the only title fight on Saturday's event. Valentina Shevchenko going out there and just, again, 5 rounds of domination, rinse and repeat, defeating Zhang Weili by unanimous decision in what a lot of us thought was going to be, and I guess on paper was, one of the biggest women's fights in MMA history. And she just made Weili look totally pedestrian, totally just like the next woman up. The size difference was very apparent. The strength was there. I guess, were you surprised in the way that things played out? Were you expecting more from Zhang Weili, or were you thinking that Valentina would look as good as she did on Saturday?
I picked Valentina to win, but I did think Zhang Weili would have some moments. I'm going to kind of flip-flop on what I said in the other fight, the other title fight. And here I will criticize just a little bit. I think Valentina held her ground. She's the bigger fighter. She has to protect the home court. She was way bigger, and she out-muscled. She out-Zhang Weili. But I will give her credit in the sense that when the fight was standing, she also was far ahead in technique. Some of the strikes that she was landing were just pinpoint, a lot of good body work. But I do feel like probably almost exactly what George was feeling in the Islam fight. I do feel like she could have done a little bit more just because you're the bigger fighter. I think you have to make a little bit more of a statement there. And I thought she could have bloodied her up a little bit more, and she didn't. But look, Valentina Shevchenko is very, very underrated because we're constantly talking about Nunes, Cyborg. You talk about your Mount Rushmore of women's MMA. And I think the one thing that we can give Valentina Shevchenko is I think she's been facing good quality opponents for longer periods of time. You take somebody like Cyborg, and yeah, she's got some good skins on her wall, but she's also had periods where maybe we feel she's not fighting the best talent. And you look at somebody like Amanda Nunes, and she had her moment, and it was very exciting, but it was in a short amount of time. The same with Ronda Rousey, but Valentina's been doing this for a very, very long time, and there's just so many doors that are open for that girl right now.
Yeah, I totally agree. Scott Christian in the chat says Valentina looks superb. She certainly did, and I feel like coming out of it, there's a little less to digest here. But Danny, I guess, where do you feel like Valentina fits in terms of the GOAT conversation? I mean, Go's kind of laid it out there, but do you think that when her story is finished being written, whenever that is, if she continues this, that she's going to be in those conversations that happen for generations to come?
She's definitely a generational talent, and I would say right now she is probably number 2 in the women's GOAT talk. If you put her as number 1, I don't think it's crazy, but I do disagree. I think at this point Amanda has achieved more, and Amanda has achieved so much that like it's really going to be hard to dethrone her. I thought it was insane that people were talking about Zhang Weili becoming the GOAT should she win at UFC 322. But anyways, that's a different story. I do think that it's in the cards and in the possibilities for Shevchenko to surpass Nunes, especially because Nunes is retired. It looks like she's going to come back, but I don't know if that comeback is going to be a sustained run. It kind of more feels like a one-off. I guess we'll see once it plays out. But look, at this point, there's no denying that she's the greatest of all time at 125 pounds. What is she going to do now? What's there to do? Sure, that division's good, but I don't think a win over, I don't know, who's the top contender right now? Natalia Silva. I don't think that's going to change her legacy all that much. What I would like is for her to vacate the belt, leave that division for a vacant title, which again, there's tons of contenders there that'll make the division very interesting. Go back up to 135, get in the mix. Now, it's a whole thing between Amanda Nunes and Kayla Harrison. Get in that mix and make it sort of like a 3 queens type thing, and all fight each other for the next couple of years. I don't know, but I think if she's able to get a title win at 135 and become a 2-division champion, beat like a Kayla Harrison, or get a trilogy with Amanda Nunes and beat her, like at that point, you are talking about the greatest. And I think that's in the cards. Like Valentina's so damn good. I don't think she's the greatest right now, but I think she's the best women's fighter we've seen in the history of the sport. Skill for skill, she's better than anyone.
George, what do you think she does next? I know in her in-cage interview, she mentioned Natalia Silva, Blanchfield, who beat Tracy Cortez earlier in the night, and then, as she calls her, Kayla Harrison. So I guess of those 3 options, like, do you agree with Danny? Do you think that maybe perhaps moving up would be the best thing to do?
It all depends in her mind how many fights she has left. If we're wrapping things up, then yeah, I agree. Maybe move up to 35, fight Kayla Harrison. Go for greatness again. Remember, she recited as a 35er when the UFC didn't have a flyweight division for many years and held her own, including a win over Juliana Pena. And I don't know if it was a split decision, but it was a close decision against Amanda Nunes on one of them. And the other, I think she decisively lost 29-28. But remember, she was fading so much that we all said in a 5-round fight, you never know. Anyway, I don't know if she wants to break. She seems like she wants to break records. She's now on 9 title defenses as a flyweight. 2 more would tie her with Demetrius Johnson and John Jones just for their own divisions. John has 12 because he also got one as a heavyweight. So she's 2 away from that. If she wants to do it, if she feels healthy, she thinks she can knock them out both in 1 year, perhaps. She's got tremendous options. But something tells me that, her face really lit up with White House versus Kayla.
Yeah, I mean, it would definitely be interesting. Blanchfield made a good statement. Silva's there. Just need some competition for Valentina, right? Let's have somebody come spice it up. Give us a Jennifer Maia round there too, right? Goes for Weili. What does she do? I mean, is the obvious move here go back down, try to get the 115 crown against Mackenzie Dern? Is that just kind of the layup?
It kind of is, but at the same time, I don't know that ego will let that happen. She ran into a freight train with Valentina Shevchenko, but it doesn't mean that the rest of the division that would happen with some of those gals. So she might just want to test one more and just see where she's at. But if it were me, yeah, just go back down and of course you can get some wins at 125, but what's that going to do for you? Go back down and be that monster at strawweight and regain your title and really establish that legacy there.
Yeah, I don't disagree. Moving on, there was a lot of other things that occurred at UFC 322. So let's briefly touch on some of the other highlights. Benoit Saint Denis kicking off the main card in 16 seconds, was knocked down by a leg kick, gets back up, and then just totally face plants Beneil Dariush. Tough loss for Dariush. He's been somebody that's wanted to stay active in recent years, and it seems like whether it's what happened in January with Moicano getting bumped and him kind of getting screwed, has not been able to compete as much. Now he's a little bit older. Danny, what was your takeaway from this one? Do you think that Beneil should hang him up? Is that the sort of conversations that we should be having, or would you like to see him continue to compete? Where do you kind of stand on him?
Yeah, this was a very tough loss. He really needed a win here. Man, I thought he was going to win this one. I do think he's the more skilled fighter, but my worry was the chin, and I guess those worries came true. I don't think he's got the chin anymore to compete at a high level. I don't think he's got a chin to compete with top 10 guys. And that's unfortunate, right? At some point he was one of the best in the world, but I don't think that's no longer the case. It isn't like a Tony Ferguson case where you're like, imploring the guy to retire. I think if he does retire, I don't think it's a bad idea. I don't think he's going to get a title shot. I think the bigger opportunities are kind of past them already. But he doesn't have, remember, he entered this fight coming off a win. So he could continue fighting, but definitely take a step back in competition, maybe sort of enter the legends divisions and fight, the Jared Gordons, the Jim Millers type of the world. And, if things change and he's looking good, maybe you can take a step back up. But at this point in time, I don't necessarily want to see him against a ranked fighter.
Yeah, I think his contender days are perhaps behind him. It's interesting. Fresh Melon Juice in the chat said, I want to see BSD versus Moicano too, which is kind of funny because that fight was so one-sided, and I feel like it kind of stopped BSD. But now we're talking about him again. Now he's got these wins. He's going out there and looking really impressive. George, how impressed were you with him? And I guess, is there anybody that you would see as a good next option for Benoit Saint Denis if you were playing matchmaker?
Well, that all happened so quick. I mean, the result is he got a finish over Beneil Dariush. That's what it says in the record books. So he handled his business and he got out of there unscathed, right? I'm more impressed with his comeback. He might be the comeback fighter of the year. He went 0-2 in 2024. We mentioned the Moicano fight, and I can't remember who the other one. I think the other one's Poirier. And now he's 3-0 in 2025 and ready to go in 2026. I don't like his BMF call out. And I don't want to see Moicano part 2 because they've kind of switched roles right now. I like him just heading upward and getting a top 5 contender. Maybe the loser of the Topuria sweepstakes. I don't know if Gaethje would want it. Maybe Pimblett would want it. France versus England.
Yeah, I don't know if it would happen, but that Gaethje fight, you throwing that out there, I think I just drooled a little bit. So hopefully we get to see that one down the line. Goes Bo Nickel. Picking up a big head kick knockout. Looked tremendous. Big fight for him. I mean, talk about just an absolute bounce back. Probably, honestly, maybe the best thing that he could have gone out there and done to get people talking about him, to get them back aboard the Bo Nickel train. So I got to ask you, are you back aboard the Bo Nickel train?
I am, but I'm barely hanging on there. I thought it was a great performance for him. I think it's exactly what he needed. I'll give him a 10. Even the interviews leading up to all this, all the things he said, I thought he said all the right things. The performance itself, he showed so many different skill sets, and ending it with that exclamation point, I think was tremendous. I don't want to say losing was the best thing that could have happened to him. I hate when people say that, but you could maybe point to maybe a little pressure being taken off of his shoulders might have helped him relax a little bit in the fight. The only one little flaw in that whole weekend for him, I think, was he played that nice guy role, right? Like, he was very good with the media, with the fans. And then as soon as he got the win, he got up on the cage, flipped everyone off. That's not even the same crowd that booed you. You got to pick a lane, man. You're either the bad guy or the good guy. Pick something. But overall, I think he really made you want to see him fight again.
Yeah, and I think he inserted mother frickin' into the MMA vernacular as well. again, a lot to talk about coming out of this. Erin Blanchfield, who we mentioned a few minutes ago, she, even if she's not next, she's right there. She's right in the conversation. She's worked her way back from that loss that she had against Manon Ferrot not too long ago. I think she's maybe got people thinking. I know like John Anik on the broadcast kept saying she's a unique matchup for Valentina. Maybe she's not somebody that people think can beat Valentina, but at least she gives her a different look, gives her something to think about. For you, I'll swing this one back to George. Are you interested at all in a potential fight with Valentina? And do you think that she could have done enough to earn the next shot?
Well, her resume is very impressive, and I would have no problem with her getting the next call. I know how the UFC rolls. I think they would lean towards Natalia Silva personally, but I would not be upset if Erin Blanchfield got it. But I will say that I was not impressed with Erin Blanchfield's game plan. I mean, she didn't look to wrestle or hit the ground until Cortez initiated it. Poor IQ on Cortez's part, because she had banked round one. She was starting to look good in round two. But again, not even a feint from Blanchfield. And then once she got there, she was like, oh, wait a minute, this is easy. I'm not at karate combat. I can grapple. And she started grappling, and then all of a sudden she went and she got the finish. So I still think that Valentina's just too good. She doesn't make those kind of blunders from point A to point, whenever Z. She is just trying to dominate you. So I don't think it would go good for Blanchfield or Silva right now. That's why I think I like her more, going up to 35. But yeah, if she wants to stay at flyweight, it's going to be one of those two.
Yeah, I agree. I think Blanchfield still has a lot to work on, right? And I think the thing working against her is that the Ferrot fight, I feel like Valentina could kind of do the same thing, just out physical her and pick her apart.
Yeah, I mean, why she's striking for 7 minutes?
Yeah.
It wasn't working. She was getting lumped up, and at some point, next thing you know, an eye starts to close or whatever, your spirits drop, and you still haven't initiating your main strength, which is the grappling.
Yeah, striking defense has always been a problem for her, so not the issue you want to have going into a Valentina fight. On the flip side, Cortez, shout out to her. This is a fight that she wanted. She seems to not be somebody to dodge some of the tougher matchups in the division, but at the same time, you got to go out there and win, right? So I guess, Danny, for you, where do you kind of see the trajectory being for her? Is she somebody that will ever be viewed kind of as a serious contender? Do you think that this is maybe where she'll hang out? Kind of, this is her, not necessarily her peak, but her ceiling.
No, even in defeat, I thought she looked a lot better than in previous fights. She's been really working on her boxing in her last 2 or 3 fights, and we've seen that improve. Like I've seen every time she stepped in the octagon, regardless of the result, I've seen an improved version of Tracy Cortez. And she is 31. I feel like women can fight it into their 30s a little bit longer. I do think the best has yet to come from Tracy. I think we're going to see that in the future. And I think it came down to IQ, right? But you can fix that. Why the hell would you shoot? You were piecing her up. Look, she's got some power behind her shots. Her boxing's looking good. She's got a nice right hand. She's got a good wrestling base, good grappling game overall. She's tough. I think Tracy still has a pretty bright future. I don't think this is it. And I think she's going to go back and watch that fight and see that it was very winnable for her. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens. But I don't think Tracy's done. I do think the ceilings is higher than what we're looking at right now.
Yeah, and consistency is big too. I mean, she fought once in 2020, once in 21, once in 22, once in 23. So this is the first time that she's had 2 fights in the same year. So obviously you need to go in there and get the reps. So yeah, I totally agree with you there. Let's just go around the horn here. One other highlight from this card that you guys had. I know that there was a few other good performances. So Goes, I'll start with you. Is there anybody else that jumped out at you from 322?
Man, Ethan Ewing, just come on. Talk about maximizing your opportunities. He was in a bad spot. Not a lot of people want to fight a guy like Malcolm Wellmaker. He's got a lot of tools. And if you came off the street and didn't know the storyline, you'd be wondering who's the guy that took the fight on short notice. I mean, his cardio was there, his striking, everything. It was just such a good performance for that kid. And a lot of people are going to remember his name.
Danny, how about you?
Man, I got to go with Fatima Klein. I think right now she's top 5 ready. I really do. I think she's got very, very good striking, dangerous striking. She's mean. She's intentional. She's got very good jiu-jitsu as well and very good grappling. I think at this point in time, even though it's very early in her career, she is already one of the best in that division. Obviously, there's some experience to be gained, and I don't want to rush her to the top, but this is a girl that's going to end up fighting for a title. And look, if you were to book today Fatima Klein versus Mackenzie Dern, I wouldn't really rule her out from winning that fight. I think she's very, very good, and she's showing us very good stuff, and she's one of the top prospects in that weight class.
Yeah, tremendous night for Silver Fox BJJ. I believe that's where her and Aaron train. So I wonder if they have anybody else coming out the pipeline. I'll have to look into that. But George, anybody that caught your eye from the UFC 322 undercard?
I noticed, as Danny was saying, I think she'd have a chance against Dern. Nolan was like, yeah, that's a layup. No, I'm just kidding. No. You know what? How about John Pork? He got some nice blows in against Dylan Dennis. He was the only one that was. It was like 10-on-1, and Dylan Dennis kind of came out unscathed. But Chanka, that's his preferred nickname. He snuck some good ones in there. Everyone's up. I think he took over the New York crowd. They really loved him. But no, seriously, look, these guys took the ones I would have said, because I loved Ethan Ewing. Him rising to the occasion like that. But you know who I'm a fan of is Gregory Rodriguez. His main strength is grappling, and every fight is like, are we going to see it? Are we going to see it? Are we going to see it? And, granted, he needs the wrestling to get the fight down to the ground. But, man, he can hold his own, and he's just like Michael Morales. He can punch you in the shoulder. He can punch you in the ribs. Doesn't have to land on the button, and you're in a world of hurt. So he's exciting to me. I love his nickname. I'll give him a shout out.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Kyle Dawkins. A plane that didn't really get off the ground in his first UFC stint is now soaring through the atmosphere, knocking out Michael Pereira and then submitting Gerald Meerschaert. So good on Kyle Dawkins to get back to the UFC and then to go 2-0. Just a really impressive run for him. Let's look forward. UFC 322 is in the rearview mirror, and now we have UFC Qatar coming up on Saturday. I personally love this card. I think it's got intriguing fights, good prospects, but I definitely want to hear from you guys as well. So, Danny, how excited are you for this one?
Brother, it's a day card. It's a day card. I don't have to stay up till 2, 3 a.m. working. So I love it. Day cards always get automatically 2-3 points boosted up. Plus, this is pretty damn good. And it's also meaningful, relevant MMA, which is, key for any card, right? Like, there's that meme going around of like Carlos Praches, kind of yawning and being uninterested when Leon Edwards had his back and then going crazy after the knockout. That's how I feel me watching an Apex card versus me watching what I saw on Saturday. And that kind of vibe carries over to this card. It's relevant MMA. We could say that, there's kind of like a title eliminator vibe for both main and co-main event, right? And then below that, it's all guys that, are known, that are in the rankings. This is a big card. It's an important one. And again, it's during the day. So I love it. I think this is a fantastic card.
Wait, please don't deny us of one of my favorite parts of the shows when you give it a number. What's your number?
Ooh, for a fight night, it's a pretty damn good fight night. I'll give it an 8.8.
8.8. All right. Wow.
Goes too high or too low?
Remember, it's a fight night.
Yeah.
Pay-per-view scoring is different from the fight night.
I was thinking 8.2, but I don't hate 8.8.
I'm going to split in the middle, go 8.5. George, what do you think?
9.
Ooh. 9.
I think the top two are very, very compelling, and then they snuck in a few nice names to get us excited because they're vets, right? Whether they're winning or losing, they've established themselves. But that return of Horiguchi, I'm excited about that.
Yeah.
He was actually a quality flyweight before he left, and then he went out and won some belts in the bantamweight division in Japan at Bellator. He actually speaks very, very good English. And Tagir's on a roll as well, Ulanbekov. So, I really like this card.
Yeah, let's talk about the main event a little bit. Arman Tsarukyan versus Dan Hooker. Tsarukyan kind of in the doghouse in the UFC's brain, right? Like, he had that opportunity for the title shot, then he hurt his back, but Dana said in a press conference that it was a weight issue. Just like a very weird vibe being projected at Arman right now. So here he is in a fight that perhaps could earn him a title shot against Dan Hooker, who's always a savage, comes to fight, fun guy. I guess, what are you kind of expecting out of this one? George, do you have a certain prediction? I guess, how do you see it kind of playing out?
Well, Tsarukyan's the number one contender to the title, and he better defend that spot. Remember, I mentioned Gaethje and Pimlet earlier. Those guys are chasing. Gaethje's got that aura and that history, right? And then Pimlet is just skyrocketing because he's popular. He just did a number on Chandler. So he's got to win and impress. Statement win against Dan Hooker. And I think he can maybe get back what he lost. He hasn't fought in a year and a half. I know he did one weigh-in. I think it was in Chicago or something like that. So he's starting to come out of the doghouse, but he's not fully out just yet. And then for Dan Hooker, holy cow, if he can beat 2 tough outs back to back like that, especially with those wrestling oriented camps, you know, that Sarukian, or skill sets, I should say, that Sarukian and Mateus Gamrot have, then I think that would be tremendous for him. I don't know if that puts him over all the way to be a number 1 contender, unfortunately, but we'll see. That's why it's so important to get the statement win.
Yeah, do you think he'll go out there and do what he needs to do?
I think Sarukian's gonna smother. I want Hooker to win because I think he just brings more to the division, but I got to keep it real. The smothering does work for sure. So I give that edge to Sarukian.
Yeah, Danny, what do you think? Does Dan Hooker have a shot here? Somebody in the chat, I was trying to find it. Duke Mad Duck pointed out he's only fought once since 2023. I don't know. What do you think his odds are to go out there and win? Do you think this is too steep of a climb?
I think so, man. Again, the inactivity, as you mentioned, he's had a lot of issues, I believe, with his hands, like broken hands and arms. You know, and Sarukian's is on fire, the number 1 contender. Bad matchup for him. Yeah, he's got a tough hill to climb here. I'd be really, really surprised if he were to get a win here. I expect Sarukian to win and to probably submit him somewhere in the 3rd or 4th.
Goes, what do you think?
It's a hell of a doghouse that Sarukian's been in. I think my dog's jealous. It's like he's been in it for a while. This is his opportunity to really bust out. Dan Hooker's game, he's very tough. He can fight at a distance very well. But Dan, I think, needs to worry about getting the win and not being entertaining. You know, I think if he gets too wild, there are a lot of things that Sarukian can take advantage of in that fight. But I expect Sarukian to probably get the victory here.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm leaning pretty strongly in on the Armin side of things. But as we mentioned, not the only very important fight that's happening on Saturday. We have Bilal Muhammad versus Ian Gary. Kind of flying under the radar a little bit. I know this was maybe one of the later fights announced. I'm super stoked for this. I love the fight. I love the matchup. I guess, Goes, I'll swing it back to you. What do you expect out of this welterweight fight? What do you think's at stake here, too?
A lot. You know, we have question marks with what direction Bilal Muhammad would go, but I think one thing he really wants to get the bad taste out of his mouth. Ian Gary is a very punchable dude, right? Like, you know, he's going to get under Bilal Muhammad's skin. I think it's probably going to go the distance, in my opinion, but I think it's going to be fun. It's going to be the type of fight where every round seems different, I think, because that's a credit to their skill sets and what they can do. But if I have to give you my early lean, I would say the best Bilal Muhammad beats the best Ian Gary, but it's just a question of how does he bounce back, man.
Yeah. Danny, I know you're pretty vocal on Twitter about Ian Gary maybe not getting the respect that he deserves, you know, because of the things that go on in his personal life and people liking to talk a bunch of smack online. So I guess for you, what do you kind of see? What do you expect to see out of him here? Do you think he'll go out there and make that statement that he needs to kind of be in that conversation about who Islam's next opponent is?
Potentially, we'll see. I'd like to think so. You know, like or love or hate Ian Gary, like the guy knows how to like really sort of sell himself and really cause a stir, really cause an emotion from the MMA community. And he plays his cards right. I don't know if it's his management team, but like fighting, he's got it locked down, but also how to sort of navigate the media and sort of that side of things. He's got locked down, that locked down as well. Again, you might not like his style, but he makes himself heard. Like you know who he is. So I think he is the favorite going into this fight, right?
Let me look that up.
I would assume that he is. In my eyes,
yeah, he's a slight favorite, -190.
Okay, I think he should win this fight. You know, he's kind of been missing a finish for a little bit. If he were to get a finish, I think he makes a serious case to surpass Kamaru Usman. And if he gets on the mic and says some things that kind of could could get on Makhachev's nerves and kind of rattle that camp up a little bit. You know, I think he could get the shot. I think he could. And again, back to what you said originally, dude, this guy doesn't get the credit. He might be honestly the most well-rounded fighter in the entire, like, pound for pound, like in the entire roster. This guy's that good. And again, you might like or dislike what he may or may not do in his personal life. Who cares? Like, we're talking about fighting. So that's what we are talking about. We're not talking about anything else. I don't care what anybody else does in their personal life. So just keep it focused to MMA, and MMA, he's good, man. He's really good.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more. George, what do you think Bilal has to do to get people to remember the name again and put him in that conversation at 170? What do you kind of hope to see out of Bilal here?
Kicking Gary's ass, Ian Machado, Gary's ass is definitely a way there, because Gary stirs the pot. He has fans, but he has, I think, more haters. So not to harp on it, I don't want people to say this guy's a broken record, but again, a statement win. So what I would do is pressure him. What I'm wondering is, the fight night, is it the smaller octagon, 25 feet across, or is it the bigger octagon, 30 feet across? Because if it's 30, I start to lean a little bit towards Gary. He just has great lateral movement. He's not an easy target. Luckily, Bilal Muhammad does have endless cardio, and so that's why I would just put him pressure, cut corners. You might have to eat an occasional kick that you weren't counting on or whatever, but get this guy off his feet. And Ian Gary showed us in the Rakhmonov fight, he's not that bad off the ground either, but I think that's just a safer path to victory, and then ground and pound his ass or go for a submission. But if you can do that, I think you're back in the good graces. And then it becomes a 2-horse race between Usman and Bilal Muhammad, as long as we don't know what's going on with Rakhmonov. But Rakhmonov's been gone so long, he may have to take one fight anyway at this point.
By the way, is this 3 or 5 rounds, this fight?
I believe it's 3.
Okay. Ooh.
Yeah.
I think that probably favors Bilal, right?
Yeah. This is one of those fights I wish was 5 co-main.
Yeah.
But quickly around the horn, who do you think? I think goes, you said Gary?
No,
Did you say?
I'm going to go Muhammad.
Okay. Danny?
I'm going to go Ian Gary decision.
George?
Bilal Muhammad.
All right. I'm going to say Gary gets it done. One other highlight from the card, like we said, there's a lot of prospects. There's some contender fights, but I just want to kind of get, if you guys have anything else that you'd like people to look out for, what would it be? George, we'll start with you.
Well, I think I already gave it away. Horiguchi's return to the UFC, but he's not getting a layup. He's getting Tagir Ulanbekov. I think that's a great fight. I love the flyweights. They took such a hit a few years ago when they almost did away with them after taking so long to bring them up. But these are 2 quality flyweights. This should be a good one. I hope both guys rise to the occasion here. This is another shallow pool because of the greatness of Alexandra Pantoja, so someone can really stake their claim here.
Yeah, it's nice when we don't have these Apex vibes, that we have top to bottom things to talk about. So, Danny, what's your pick here? What do we think people should look out for?
I'm gonna stick with the welterweight division and highlight Jack Hermansson versus Oral Baya. I think that's a fun fight. Oral Baya, I'm a fan, man. He's grown on me a lot. That war that we saw with Rebecca, like, some time ago, and he's low-key a dark horse in that division. So I'm gonna go with him.
Yeah, that was one that blew my mind when we were doing the staff picks, right? Because Oral Baya's moving up to welterweight and Jack Hermansson's moving down to welterweight. So one of those weird ones to process. Goes, what do you think?
Probably going to be similar size too. That's
right. Because Oral Baya's just been missing weight anyway. Not like it matters.
Yeah.
Goes, what do you think? Who should people have circled on their bout sheet?
I think the judges should have Ozdemir and Menefield circled. They won't be needed. I think they can go get a hot dog or whatever.
It's going to be a good one. For me, I'm going to go with Luke Riley, one of the best prospects in MMA right now, making his debut, training partner of Paddy Pimblett, but a lot more than the hype. He's got some real skills, and I'm actually higher on him than I was when Paddy got involved. We do have a couple extra minutes here, so maybe I'll take some comments from the chat. Masters of the Universe Classic says Dalby is always good too. He's fighting Saigid Izakamayev, who I believe is a one championship guy, even though I cannot say his name, coming out of the Habib camp. Duke Mad Duck says Shamil Gaziev coming out party is on Saturday. I know he's a very obviously.
Duke Mad Ducks had great comments in the chat today.
Yeah,
He
shout
said
out to
if
him.
Gary wins, that helps Shafkat's case, and that's true. I love
Mhm.
comments like that. This is a hardcore right here.
Yeah, no, for sure. He's been carrying me this whole time, giving me ideas to talk about here. I did see some mentions too. If we're just touching on some other news from the week, Yaroslav Amosov signing with the UFC, or is about to sign with the UFC as well. It sounds like he's going to be making his debut in December. So I guess we'll see where he kind of fits into this entire picture. But one other thing just to talk about real quick, Jake Paul versus Anthony Joshua announced this morning. Was very like rumored, and then it sounded like it wasn't going to happen, and then we get the official announcement. So I guess how seriously are you guys taking this? Do you think that we'll even get to fight night? And I guess once we get there, Goes, what do you think we're going to see between Jake Paul and Joshua?
If it gets there and we can take boxing serious, this is bad news for Jake Paul. He should not have done this. Anthony Joshua is just on a complete different level. They might have to scrape Jake Paul off of the canvas.
Weight classes do exist for a reason, so I'm interested to see what kind of figure Jake Paul brings into the heavyweight division, how big he ends up getting. Danny, do we see this ending in any other way? If it happens, then Jake Paul looking like a starfish in the middle of the boxing ring.
I think
and you'll get to be there, probably see it live.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. I'm gonna be at the press conference here in Miami on Friday, so look out for coverage on MMA Junkie on that. I'm still kind of like, I still can't believe it. I feel like something has to happen before the fight, and we get a replacement. Like, I can't believe this fight is being made. The discrepancy in skill, experience, size, like literally there's nothing in favor for Jake Paul in this one. He should get knocked out pretty bad. Like, this is not advisable. And I know a lot of people hate on Jake Paul, and he's definitely controversial, but something you can't deny is the dude's got balls. Like, signing a contract to fight Anthony Joshua, like, dude, my respect to that guy.
Yeah, I wouldn't even sign to fight an Anthony Joshua impersonator. That dude is massive. George, do you care? What's the level here? Do we care? I know you and I probably have always been on the same page about this stuff, but are you excited about this one at all? Does the carnival vibes bring you in?
Yeah, because I want Jake Paul to get his. He's picked on too many of our aging stars, but credit to him. I always give him credit for what he's done, how he's navigated it all. But the reality is he's not a top-notch boxer. And he's going to get iced, especially if that same Anthony Joshua that fought Francis Ngannou shows up. I mean, he looked in shape and with a mission. So Jake Paul stands no chance. He'd have to stab him right in the ribs before the fight, the same way the Spaniard stabbed Commodus. Commodus stabbed the Spaniard, and he still lost, just to even things out.
Yeah.
Of course, I'm not pushing for any of that, but yeah, he has no chance.
GG, starfish or no?
Starfish. That's Nolan's. Nolan put that on the map. I like that. Noli, man, good job. You made me laugh the other day when you said that one.
Yeah, I like it. It's the only clever
Great
thing.
Great job, by the way, hosting.
Oh, thank you. I have big shoes to fill, so I know some people were probably let down when they saw me. But I do have some big news that CC Hathaway will be hosting next week. So we'll get him on here for his live debut.
I look forward to that.
Yeah, just
that's not gonna happen.
Oh, there he is. Yeah.
Coffee in the house.
Wow, this is an episode to remember now. We got to cut that one. Kenny, can you cut that for social when we hop off here?
Yeah, that's the social clip of the week.
Pretty epic. Nolan on short notice hosting, and I think we got to give a performance to Duke Mad Duck. Probably got to give one to Kenny for popping in. It's been a good show.
think Nolan did a better job than Ethan Ewing on short notice, and Ethan Ewing was right there. But Nolan, you brought it today, man.
No, thanks, guys. I really appreciate it, and I got to say thank you to everybody that tuned in as well. Make sure to like and subscribe this. We'll be back here, I think, the same spot next week. So tune in and appreciate everybody jumping on here and spending your Monday with us. So have a great rest of your week.